Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on the channel, and I am once again sick, but that is neither here nor there. We are talking about The Fall Guy today for this video. This movie, of course, is directed by David Leitch, starring Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt, and you know, I am a decent fan of David Leitch's films. Honestly, you know, Atomic Blonde was a good movie. I did like Deadpool 2. Bullet Train was a lot of fun as well, and now you have The Fall Guy, and I think if anything, this string of movies proves that David Leitch is a very consistent filmmaker, because I think all of his films, obviously the action is going to be very good and very entertaining, and the stunt work is going to be amazing, but they're all really fun movies. The comedy works really well, and they're just a good time at the theater. And so there is a lot to love in The Fall Guy, although I do have some hiccups here or there with it, which of course I will be getting into in this spoiler review. So if you have not seen The Fall Guy in theaters because you watched The Phantom Menace instead, first I say, why? Okay, let's not get the Star Wars fans hating on me here, but you know, maybe go ahead and watch The Fall Guy after you watch Star Wars. You know, enjoy your time on May the 4th, and then let's get into The Fall Guy. So what is The Fall Guy about? Well, essentially it follows Ryan Gosling's character, who is a stuntman working in Hollywood. After an injury that he had back a few months prior, he goes back onto set with an ex-lover of his, played by Emily Blunt, and you know, the star of this movie that she's directing goes missing, and because he's a stuntman, because he knows this character very personally, he is tasked by the producer to try to find this missing stuntman while also trying to rekindle that relationship he has with Emily Blunt's character. But let's start off with the things that I really loved about this movie. And like I said, David Leitch is a very consistent filmmaker, but I think this movie in particular has some of my favorite character beats and character moments that I've seen from any of his films, because I think that Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt's chemistry in this movie is genuinely great. I love these characters so very much, and quite frankly, if you took away all the action spectacle that's happening with, you know, Ryan Gosling trying to find Aaron Taylor Johnson's character, and you took all that out of the movie and you just set it on a film set of them making a crazy over-the-top sci-fi action movie, and you have those scenes where they're, you know, kind of bantering back and forth to each other, of like Emily Blunt trying to direct him, saying, oh, you know, your character is a space cowboy who, you know, got injured and he left his, you know, this girl that was in love with him, this fling that they had, left her entirely behind, and now that's how are you going to respond to that? And that whole thing being just a code that everybody can realize is, you know, her talking about their actual relationship that is baked into the lifeblood of the movie that they're making. And if it was just that the entire time, I would have loved it just as much. But with this being a David Leitch film, of course there's going to be the over-the-top action set pieces that's going to be built on top of all that other stuff that I just praised, and I really did love that this movie was a genuine love letter to stuntmen, to the people who make these movies happen, that do all these stunt work, the men and women that, you know, make all this stuff look realistic and look great and make the actors look great in all of their action set pieces. Corridor just released their video today talking to David Leitch about the stunt work that he's done in his past, both as a stuntman working in Hollywood and as a director working with actors and working on these movies, and this movie in particular, and how practical he'd like to try to make a lot of this film, which if you just hear him talk about this movie in general, you can see the passion that he has for this craft, for the work that he did on this movie and all his other movies. And I think that is the most praiseworthy aspect of this film, is the fact that it does feel so genuinely just passionate about filmmaking in general, and it makes you also passionate about filmmaking. But let's get into the actual story and the characters of it, because I think that at least the romantic comedy aspect of this movie is pretty straightforward. Of course, you have Ryan Gosling's character getting injured at the beginning of this story and kind of ending that fling because he feels kind of lost in that point in his life where if he isn't, you know, that successful stuntman, the thumbs up type of guy, you know, he doesn't want to be the thumbs down type of guy that he explains later on in this movie, and he doesn't want her to see him in that light because he's very insecure about his life and his relationship and all these different things with him, you know, wanting to pursue, you know, Emily Blunt's character, but not wanting her to see him in the way that he sees himself. And I thought that was a very interesting character beat to have for him throughout this entire movie. And of course, when he gets the call from Hannah Waddingham, who plays the producer of the film, you know, she says that, oh, you know, Emily Blunt's character wants you back working with her on her first feature, and, you know, you need to come back for this. That's, of course, going to motivate him to actually get back on the horse to be a stuntman once again. But of course, you know, it's a whole ploy with her character that we'll get into in a minute here, but Emily Blunt's character doesn't want to see him anymore because he straight up ghosted her. He disappeared from her life entirely, which leads to probably my favorite scene in the movie, which is extremely unrealistic of her, having them redo that stunt of lighting him on fire and having all these, using the megaphone to try to explain their relationship between, like, all these other people are getting tied into this situation, and it's an extremely funny sequence. You would never in a million years see that on a set, or at least you'd hope that you'd never actually see that on a real film set. But it did lead into one of the funniest moments in the movie, being that one random alien guy saying, "Oh, this kind of reminds me of that time that I fell in love with my wife's sister," or so whatever he says with the whole alien voice in the costume. It was so funny, but that entire sequence was hilarious. But this entire ploy to get Ryan Gosling back into the fold was actually to set him up for the crime that the actual star of the movie committed, which is kind of the more convoluted plot of the whole action spectacle side of this movie, which, like I said, it is the cherry on top to all this other stuff that I loved. And like I said, if you took all this stuff out, I'd probably be fine with it because it is a bit convoluted. And I think the movie is meta enough about how convoluted it is, especially in the sequence where you have Aaron Taylor Johnson kind of explaining the whole plot to Ryan Gosling when he's tied up on a chair on the docks of Sydney, all that stuff, to be as meta as they are in those moments. It makes it a little less annoying with how convoluted it is, and it makes it tolerable enough for me to, not dismiss it entirely because, it is a fun enough story, and it makes sense because essentially Aaron Taylor Johnson's character, being the type of guy that he is, his stuntman says, "Oh, do you do your own stunts?" kind of mocking him, and of course he's going to lose his mind because he's a very particular type of Hollywood star that gets very offended by these type of things, the one who has a massive ego that cannot be really matched by anybody else. And this leads to him accidentally killing his stuntman, which prompts Hannah Waddingham's character to want to save, her movie star from all of this, legal troubles by trying to frame Ryan Gosling's stuntman and doing a whole deepfake thing to make him be in the video instead of Aaron Taylor Johnson. And it's a whole convoluted plot to try to get him tied up into this situation, but it makes sense for the producer to be, trying to back her giant moneymaker in Aaron Taylor Johnson's character, who has this massive ego and this little, like, man-child of a character, to, dropkick this one random guy and have him be killed, and him trying to get out of all these crimes that he committed. It makes sense. It's tongue-in-cheek. It's very over the top, and it's very self-aware and meta at times. And I think this movie has a weird side effect with it being very self-aware and meta about it being about a stuntman that kind of took me out of the movie at times, and I guess the tonal shifts between it being the love story, the grounded love story between Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt, and how, they're filmmakers and you see the behind the scenes of them making the films, and all of a sudden then you get thrown into these really over the top action set pieces where you're kind of aware every time they cut away from Ryan Gosling and you see a wide shot and you can tell that, oh, this is the stunt performer doing the stunt, and it's a really great stunt and they do a lot of great stuff. But at the same time, I realize that I'm watching a movie and I'm watching all these stunts be done, and it just took me out of the movie a bit. And I think those transitions between that's over-the-top stylized action between the more grounded, we're making a movie about over-the-top stylized action, and it's being thrown between those two things, it did take me out of the movie, especially in the first half of the film. And I don't know if it's just me that was taken out of the movie for those reasons, but it kind of led to me having some uneven, like, tone and pacing issues with this film that's kind of permeated throughout the entire thing. But hey, maybe that's just me, maybe that didn't take you out of the movie. It just, at times, I felt very aware that I was watching a movie, and that at least is a personal nitpick of mine. Like, if a character in a movie says, "Oh, well, this isn't a movie, like, we're not going to act this way," but then, you're saying that in a movie, and, like, I don't know, it just takes me out every single time, and I feel like this movie did that constantly, and it did bother me a little bit, but again, not enough for me, my overall enjoyment of this movie, to be taken down, because this movie does have a very infectiously fun tone to it that you can't help but to smile throughout the entire thing. And of course, I do want to talk about these set pieces in this movie because they are a big part of this film and they are very fun. Of course, you have the boat chase sequence, which had all the Miami Vice references to it. That was a really fun sequence. And I know a lot of people have said that the movie kind of feels like it should end at that point in the movie. And of course, there's like a fourth act syndrome after that point. But everything that happens on set with Emily Blunt and Ryan Gosling trying to finally get the confession out of Aaron Taylor Johnson, all that stuff was a lot of fun, and the 250-foot car jump that they did at the ending was also a lot of fun. And I also love that this film gives every single character that's in it a chance to shine in an action sequence. And again, to praise David Leitch once again for, knowing how to work with his actors, especially in these sequences, he does know the right moments to have, the actors trained for certain sequences to see them actually performing their own stunts at times and knowing when to cut away to have these stunt performers do the big action stuff that the actors are not going to be able to do themselves. And so this movie really does not waste its cast. Winston Duke has a lot to do in this film. I thought he was a very fun as the stunt coordinator of the film that they're making within this movie. I thought his role was pretty fun. Even Stephanie Hsu is in this movie, and she has a great set piece of her, you know, finding a guy inside a truck as they're moving, and Ryan Gosling is finding this other guy on the back of the truck that's like spinning out of control in this like garbage like container that's being dragged behind this car. I love that entire set piece. I thought that was a lot of fun. Even Emily Blunt gets a great set piece where, you know, she thinks that Ryan Gosling died in the fire, the Miami Vice thing on the boats, and so she's watching over that clip over and over again, and Ryan Gosling sneaks up on her dressed up as an alien. I absolutely love that entire fight. I thought that was a lot of fun, added a lot of great comedy in that sequence in general. And again, you have Emily Blunt, who has been known to have a lot of great action moments in movies, especially like Edge of Tomorrow, and to see her in this film get a moment like that was awesome to see. And so everybody got a chance to do a lot of fun stuff like that, which again, David Leitch knows how to work with his actors to make it look, you know, like they are actually doing their stunts, but knowing the right time to have their stunt performers shine in the moments that they need to shine in, and it all just blended really well. And once you get to the ending of the film and you get the confession from Aaron Taylor Johnson, and they do that, you know, giant 250 feet jump, and then of course there's a whole helicopter thing of them chasing down the helicopter, and the sound recorder that got the confession, all that stuff happens. And of course when Ryan Gosling finally flips him off on the helicopter and then falls backwards onto, you know, the landing pad, all that stuff was awesome. It was very satisfying to see how, you know, it just ended with them kissing with the fires, the explosions going on in the background. It is very fun. It is very over the top. It is very ridiculous, but I don't know, it just worked for me. Like I said, this movie has an infectious kind of tone of fun to it that I couldn't help but get caught up into it, especially by the ending of this film. But that's going to be it for my thoughts on The Fall Guy. Make sure you guys let me know in the comment section down below what your thoughts were on this movie, unless of course you saw The Phantom Menace, to which again I respond why. But also let me know if you think that the Academy Awards are actually going to add an Oscar for Best Stunt Performance or Best Stunt Coordinator or whatever they're going to do for stunts. I would love to see it. This movie does have a great plea, and it has a great, you know, it's a great example of why it should be in the Academy Awards. But me being a pessimist, I think they're just going to do some skits with bringing some performers on stage, doing a couple of flips, and it just being a disingenuous pat on the back to, you know, stunt performers without actually recognizing them with the awards that they truly do deserve. I don't know if that's just me. I am a pessimist when it comes to the Academy Awards, but hey, maybe they will eventually change. But if you did enjoy this video, make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe to the channel to see more reviews just like this one. I'll hopefully have more reviews for I Saw the TV Glow. It did come out in LA this weekend, but of course me being sick has prevented me from seeing it yet, but I will have a review out for that hopefully soon. So like I said, leave a comment down below, like and subscribe if you want to see more reviews just like this one, and I hope to see you all in my next one.